morning, everyone. My name is Hilary Woodhead. I am the CEO here at NAAP, and it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you to this broadcast. We are broadcasting across our channels simultaneously, so thanks to the amazing backstage team and the magic of technology, you can view this on a range of social media channels and on our YouTube channel. It is day 4 of National Activity Providers and Professionals Week 2025, and what an amazing week it has been so far. It's been amazing to see you all encouraging each other, celebrating each other, and recognising each other's work. And please keep sharing all that you're doing this week to celebrate the amazing work of activity providers across the UK and the US. We hope you're enjoying it as much as we are, and we hope that you'll continue to enjoy this week. We know many of you will be joining us in Liverpool tomorrow for the conference and for the awards. A big thank you to our NAAP Week sponsors, Majestic Air Luxury Care Homes. Their support really helps us to make this event possible. So we want to send a big thank you to them, real enthusiasts of activity provision and activity providers. Let's not also forget the amazing sessions that we've had so far. And if you've missed any of those, including the launch, the broadcast from Tuesday and from yesterday, you can catch up with all of those replays on our website. We have also published a range of free resources this week for you to download. Many of those are in the activity shed or on the NAAP Week page of our website, and we're going to post them in the chat as well. So please have a look at those, download those, and let us know what you think. We're going to be publishing more music-related resources throughout the year. So if there is something in particular that you're looking for or that you'd like to see, please let us know. We really want to make sure that all of the resources really respond to your needs, whether that's to do with your training needs or inspiration and ideas. Please let us know. We'd also really like to share your ideas as well, and in the NAAP calendar every month we've got space for you to do that. So please get in touch with us if you have particular music-based activities that you would like to share with the wider sector. We are also, of course, launching this week our year of musical expression. Every year we have a dedicated focus, and this year is music. And we have a particular sponsor for the whole year, Symphony Sound. So we really want to celebrate them this week too and thank them for all of their support. We'll be working with them over the next 12 months to celebrate all things music. So keep an eye on NAAP News, keep an eye on the website, because we'll definitely be sharing more about our relationship. So today we're talking about the international power of music. We know that music is a topic that resonates with people from all cultures, of all ages and backgrounds, and that the power of music is shaping and helping to enhance activity provision worldwide. We know it's a universal language. It transcends borders and barriers. It really is about uniting people. And I think everybody in some way or another has music in their lives. So without further ado, I would like to introduce a very lovely friend of mine, Colleen Knudsen, who is joining us today from NAAP US. Thank you for being here, Colleen. How are you?
Thank you. I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me. NAAP is so proud and just so happy to be able to share this week with you. We're so impressed. You've been doing this for a few years, and the education and the resources that you offer during this time is amazing.
Well, thank you for inspiring us in the first place. We know NAAP Week has been a long-standing week of celebration in the States, and we really have just we sort of pinched it and piggybacked on the back of your amazing idea.
Allies.
Tell us a little bit about you, what you do, your day job, as well as your work with NAAP, and a bit about NAAP too.
Okay, I'm the Vice President of Member and Life Enrichment here at Attic Angel Community. And Attic Angel Community is a continuum of care. So we have independent housing all the way through people that need a lot of assistance and may have a diagnosis of memory care. It is considered, though, independent and assisted living. And so that's my job 40 hours a week or 60 hours a week. You know how that is.
Yeah.
And then for NAAP, I'm the outreach director. And that has really been just a dream because I get to reach out to NAAP. I get to reach out to New Zealand, to Australia, to Japan, to all of these different countries. And the goal is to really just collect education, share resources and network. And that's one of my favorite things to do. So I really enjoy it.
You know, we feel very, very lucky to have developed this lovely partnership with NAAP. And, you know, there are lots of similarities, lots of commonalities, but there are also some differences in the way that we work. And I think
Absolutely.
we're really learning from each other, I think, as well, aren't we? Which has been really lovely. And
Yeah.
from those other international partners that you mentioned as well. And we've got an international knowledge exchange coming up, haven't we, in February as well? So lots
Very
to look
exciting.
forward to in terms of international kind of alliances, which is great. So in terms of music then, so I'm going to start off just asking you a little bit about kind of cultural perspectives on music and activity provision. And, you know, if we describe it as a universal language, how is that application kind of different in various cultures, do you think? So from an international perspective, how do cultural differences influence the use of music, would you say?
So it is a universal language, but depending on your culture, I think that the music can mean something different to you. Different cultures have, I think, different music that helps them feel gratitude, that helps them work through grief, that gives them energy, that helps them celebrate. When you look at different cultures and we look at the residents in our facility, we have to know our residents and we have to understand their culture. When we have that information, we can sort of zoom in. We can know what's going to help them feel included, what's going to help them feel excited, want to get out in bed in the morning, and we can help them with that. But then we can also bring it out into the community and we can share it. So we can take these interests, these things that are so meaningful to the person that help define who they are, and we can introduce that to the community. And then all of a sudden they feel validated, they feel excited, and then the rest of the group is learning. And I think the biggest thing about that is just providing an environment that is inclusive, that is open, where there's no wrong answers. You can ask questions. And we find that the residents are so excited to actually learn about the different music.
Yeah. I think that's a really interesting point because we can make assumptions, can't we, about based on someone's culture, background, age.
Human
About
beings are great at doing that. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think it can be scary for some people. We do have residents from all over the world. And I think for some of them, especially if there's a very small group, like we have somebody from India, we have somebody from South America, I think they can sometimes feel isolated. And so showing that you're interested in who they are as a person and that you respect and you want to learn more about them,
Yeah.
especially doing that through music, it seems like a way to really just sort of bridge that gap and to create a connection.
Absolutely. And I think some of the lovely examples that we've seen here in the UK is actually where staff have felt able to share their cultural heritage through music. And that's really enabled relationships to develop between staff and residents, because that can be quite hard sometimes to know, if we're very different cultures, to know where to start. And I think music can be a very powerful tool. In especially here where we have in certain parts of the country particularly, and I'm sure this is the same in the States, is that you might have quite a different diversity in workforce to the people that you're supporting, and that can cause all sorts of challenges but also opportunities. And music, I think, can be a real kind of leveler, can't it? As you say, you get to know each other.
I agree. So many beliefs and maybe political things, it can be challenging. And music seems to be a safe, joyous, positive way to build that connection. And once you have that connection or that small spark, you grow from there. And so using music as that foundation, like you said, is a great way to bridge that gap and get those relationships started so that you can strengthen them.
Yeah, yeah. I think that leads us nicely into thinking about how we kind of measure that, really. And obviously we say, well, there's lots of research that tells us that music is a good thing and we should introduce it and we should prioritize it, that everybody should have access to kind of a music-based program. But how do we know it? How do we know? What sort of measures are there? And we get asked that a lot. I don't know if there's anything in particular that you've used or that you're aware of that helps to measure kind of the impact on well-being.
I talked to my team about this. There's about 8 of us, and you and Natalie met them when you came over. And so they were so excited to hear about how this is going to be the year of music. And this was something they were very interested in because we want more research. We want more scientific evidence that can show that this is helpful, that this can help reduce anxiety, depression, that it can actually, get rid of feelings of loneliness, even for a short period of time. And sometimes those things can be hard to measure. So what we have noticed is sometimes we'll introduce a different musical program or we'll come up with a playlist. And then we'll monitor that resident. We'll see, are they participating more? Are they coming out of their room more? Are they awake more often? Sometimes it's things, and this might sound silly and it might not sound scientific. Are they smiling more? Are they talking more? Are they sharing more about their life? Are they being, more willing to reminisce and wanting to connect with those around them? I think so often what we're measuring are things like that.
Yeah.
And specifically in our memory care unit, where you can see people start to withdraw because it's really scary, I can imagine, to lose parts of who you are and to lose your memory, and to provide music that helps them remember who they are. We see this increase of confidence, of all of a sudden not being afraid to connect, of almost waking up again and just engaging and being more involved. And again, I don't know if that's evidence-based, but it's something that we see every single day.
And I think we need to then, don't we, maybe as activity providers and professionals, we've got a job to do in sharing that research. It might be research with a little r, but it absolutely is evidence. And I think sometimes when we're looking at ways perhaps to fund innovative practice, that our funders often want that scientific evidence. They want to be able to really demonstrate the difference that this program will make on quality of life.
Yeah.
But to really understand aging, particularly understand dementia, is really the way in, isn't it? Because then we know it's those little things, as you were saying.
It is.
Sleeping better, eating better, less distress, less restless, those sorts of things.
Yep, more engagement. I think you can also try to monitor for maybe more physical movement, or maybe are we seeing more emotional regulation? Are people participating more? Have they had a reduction possibly in antipsychotic, depression, anti-anxiety medication? There are things like that that are so important, but I don't think we should ever lose sight of this person is smiling more. This person is looking forward to activities more. They might not be evidence-based, but I think those are often things that show that somebody's excited about their life. They're engaged and they want to keep living. So you're right. It's about us sharing that narrative as well in support of that evidence-based research.
Yeah. And I think if we track well and record well, sometimes, I don't know if you have this with your teams, but sometimes activity providers can become quite frustrated with the amount of recording that they're required to do. But actually, and I know there's a balance, but actually that is where the recording is so important, isn't it? Because we're able to say there's been a marked change in Colin's well-being, and somebody else will say, well, yes, and we know why, because look at all this fantastic intervention that the activities teams have introduced that have really helped with their engagement, their well-being and engagement. And without those records, without that documentation, it's great that the well-being's improved, but we're not seeing the role and the value of the AP, are we? We're missing.
You're absolutely right.
And their practice has really made a difference. And of course, as NAAP, that's what we're about. We want to be able to see others to see the value of the activity providers. So, I think, again, measuring well-being it's not easy to do. Measuring quality of life is not easy to do, is it?
It's not.
It's those small measures that really are important to capture, I think.
And you're right. And it's having a goal to, like, of more physical movement, or previously they maybe participated in 3 groups a month, and now they're coming to 15. And this is what we've done for musical interventions. And so it does get hard because our days are so jam-packed and we want to spend it with the residents. But document, because that's how you're going to get a seat at the table. That's how you're going to have information that people are actually going to want to listen to. It's how you're going to get grants, donations. So as you do it, you can definitely be like, I don't like this and I wish I wasn't doing it, but understand the importance of it. It's really needed.
Absolutely. And I think the more we do it and the more we're able to share the outcomes, and for those outcomes to be seen as important as some of those other clinical outcomes that are prioritized, then obviously we can begin to see the benefit of funding for music-based activities, for music therapists, etc., and really justify that. I think we're also going to talk about kind of music activities for diverse populations. We've touched on this a little bit.
But
is there anything else, do you think, particularly around adapting music for different cultures or different backgrounds, that you've experienced yourself or that you're aware of that you wanted to share?
So we have, I believe you met Casey Olson. I can't remember when you were over here, but he's the music coordinator. We're so blessed to have a music coordinator in our facility. And so he only works part-time, but his job is specifically, he studied world music. He's going to school to be a music therapist. He's got this amazing background that he can teach the rest of the team on how we should be doing this. And the way we're able to afford them, because budgets are tight, is get somebody that has that knowledge, but maybe they're not practicing as a musical therapist. They've got the background then, and you get to utilize them. They get to do what they love to do, but you don't have to pay at a music therapist salary, which can sometimes be much more, and not a lot of facilities can do that. And I just wanted to read, he had wrote a few couple just wonderful things down, and he had just said, you need to understand the cultural backgrounds of the participants to make the music selection client-centered. We know that. We're always talking about making things client-centered, and so you have to know your people. Understanding the cultural background and the cultural context is equally important. I've studied world music, so I have a basic understanding, but the biggest thing is when you have these activities, do it with an open mind towards other cultures and a desire to understand the value of diversity. And I just think that's so beautiful. So as a leader, if you're going in as the staff person, you need to come in with that mindset. You need to be passionate, excited, and open and ask questions. And you need to provide answers to the people in the group where they're not going to feel stupid, or they're not going to feel like, oh, I shouldn't have asked that. I hope I didn't hurt anybody's feelings. You want that openness. And you can start sharing music from all over the world. Casey does something, what did he call it? He will just play random famous songs from different countries. And then it's like, name that country instead of name that tune. And so he'll play that music, and then he'll talk about the culture, the significance, the musical background. And that's gotten people really excited and wanting to learn more. So that's one of the biggest things we've done culturally.
And yet it's such a simple activity.
It wasn't hard to plan.
This is the thing that gets me again and again and again. Is that that is not a really involved thing to plan, is it? That's quite dynamic, really. Yes. It's in the moment. The power of, there's various apps you can get, the power of AI, that you can just, play a traditional folk song from southern India or whatever it might be.
Something from Russia, something from China, all of these different places. Yeah. Residents can vote on what country they want to learn more about. If you want to go farther and work with the other departments, then they can have a meal that week. This is something that they eat in China. There's so many different ways to incorporate it. But then you just get that spark, that interest of wanting to learn. And then the residents start to take it into their own hands, and they start giving suggestions, and they start talking about what they want to learn about, and then it starts to grow.
Mm-hmm. Something that's really grown in interest and popularity here has been the use of individual playlists. We have an organisation called Playlist for Life, wonderful organisation. They'll be at the conference tomorrow, in fact. So
excellent.
And I'm just wondering if that's something in the States that's taken off in quite the same way. Yeah. So families getting involved, planning playlists for people, very person-centered approach to music activity, really. Is that something you've seen?
It is. I would say that maybe 10 years ago, there was a program called Music and Memory that came out. And so this was specifically, and it can be adapted for anybody, but it was specifically for people that had memory loss, dementia, and it was coming up with these personalized playlists, putting it on an iPod, however you wanted to do it, so that they would have that music if you were hoping that they would maybe eat more of their meals. Or if somebody had Parkinson's, you would put like marching music on, and you would use it for when you're doing their PT and when they're walking. And so it was coming up with different lists to sort of help that person not just relive their life and reminisce, but to focus on actual goals. That was incredibly successful. As things have started to change and technology has grown, we don't necessarily need an iPod anymore. We don't need to do all of the work coming up with the songs and finding everything ourselves. You can use AI for that. Yeah. And I'm not saying that AI should take over. I still think that there's such a nuance to people watching a resident as they're listening to music to really help them know if it's something that they love. Music is so powerful. We need to remember that it's not always going to bring up good memories. It's not always going to be enjoyable. We have no idea about that. We might play a song that we think is beautiful and romantic, And maybe that was the wedding song that was played at Carl's wedding, and he lost his wife 3 years ago, and he never wants to hear that song again.
Yeah.
And so that's something that AI can't help with. You need to have a human being there. But you can use Spotify, Apple Music, and they'll come up with these lists for people that need assistance with walking, maybe somebody who has anxiety. You can reach out to family members and what did your parents love when they were younger? I think all music stays a part of you, but there's this certain age, almost when you were a teenager, that you go back to as you age, and that's the music that you just really love. And sometimes residents might not remember that, or they might be too nervous to talk about it. So reaching out to families and having them assist is a great way to strengthen that relationship too, because when people move into a facility, sometimes visitors don't know what to talk about anymore. They don't know what to do. You can set them up with this, give them a project, have them sit down with mom and dad or grandma, grandpa, or aunt and uncle and figure out the music that they love and give them their own playlist. They've got something that might want, they might want to get out of bed the next day. They've got something that's going to cheer them up, something that's just for them. So I think those individual playlists are really, really powerful. I don't think it has to be through like a music and memory or a program like that, although they're very supportive and they provide resources. If you can't afford that, or if you don't have time for all the education, you can work with your team to just do the individual playlists yourselves.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, that is when I think you're going to really start to see some differences. It's because you're choosing client-centered music.
Absolutely.
Somebody doesn't say, oh, I like country, and you hop on and you just download 50 country songs. You're working with that person and their family. What was their favorite artist? What was their favorite song? That personalization.
Yeah. I think what you said as well about the times in people's lives where music might have played, more of a part than others. I have teenage boys at the moment that have just discovered vinyl. They think they're the first to ever play vinyl records, and of course, my husband's got thousands. But I think that is so interesting. The times in our lives and the music that related to those times in our lives, whether that is, and as you say, there may well be difficult or sad triggers, but if that's used in a therapeutic way, that might actually enable somebody to release some of that grief and release some of that loss. So there's always considerations, I think, with music. Is it isn't just about we've worked out how old Hillary is, so therefore she's going to want to listen to the Spice Girls, because believe me, I won't want to listen to the Spice Girls.
It's not cookie cutter like that. No,
it's having that, it is that nuance that you talk about, isn't it? And not being scared of the emotions, I think, as well. Just giving some thought really before you introduce it. Yeah.
And being able to hold space for that person, because like you said, you never know what their reaction is going to be. Yeah.
Absolutely. Or your own. And I think sometimes we have to remember that we're using music for people, with people that might actually have an emotional significance for the workers too.
Yes.
And how do we look after ourselves when we hear a certain song?
Well said, Hillary.
I think sometimes, being able to facilitate this kind of meaningful therapeutic intervention with someone can also impact on us as the worker as well. And I think we don't always give enough space. I think music's a really good example of this, just how quickly it can take you somewhere, and kind of, how immediate those feelings can be. And you might need yourself to take a minute or two before you continue, or after the activity or whatever, just to be able to process that as well. We're not robots. We're not AI.
We're not robots. And some of us are so either sentimental or emotional. And I consider that one of my strengths. I know some people would probably not, but you're absolutely right. This morning I got out of the shower, I was getting ready. I'm always listening to music, and Hans Zimmer, I listened to Time from the movie Inception. And I've always thought it's such a beautiful piece, and it's powerful, and it gives me goosebumps. But this morning it made me cry, and it wasn't a bad cry. It was just this emotional connection and something that was so beautiful. And if I would have been sharing this with a resident and I would have felt that come up when I was there, we need to give the people that we're working with the tools and the resources to help take care of themselves when those feelings pop up. You are absolutely right.
Absolutely. That is a brilliant example. And thank you for sharing that about
yes, absolutely.
As well. It is a beautiful piece of music.
Yeah, if anybody wants to have a good cry, that's a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Colleen. And that's been amazing. I think we've got a couple of questions from the audience, Jana. Have we? Jana's backstage. Absolutely. This is a good one. Thank you. This is from Prior. In your experience, how does live music performance compare to recorded music in terms of the impact on resident engagement and well-being? That's a lovely question.
Oh, Prior, that's a great question. I think so often when I see us having live music, we have two people on the team, Mike and Casey, that can play guitar and ukulele and they can sing. They have a fan club. Don't get me wrong, when you don't have access to that and you have to use a playlist or a CD player or your laptop, so often the residents are still engaged and they're awake and they're enjoying it. But when you've got a person right in front of you playing that music, I don't think you can ever replace that. I think that brings a different level of engagement and emotional well-being. And unfortunately, I think that can be hard to find. Not everybody has that talent. Some entertainers are very expensive and you might have a small budget. So don't feel bad. Just do it occasionally. Do it when you can, because I think it does give that extra oomph, that extra connection. I would go for live anytime I could choose.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think you'll find live music in the most unexpected of places. You know, what are the talents and skills and secrets being kept by your team? Do you have an opera singer or a folk singer or a pop singer in the making?
Yes.
I think, you know, whether it's just somebody that brings in their guitar or sits and, you know, perhaps wants to, I don't know, just sing a cappella, whatever. I just think, community members, family members, your volunteers, you know, what are their hidden talents? Of course, it's wonderful to have professional musicians. Absolutely, it is. That in itself is just glorious. But, you know, you may well have musicians amongst you.
That's so well said.
That are happy to, and they might not want to perform in front of a big group, but going in and sitting with someone who's cared for in bed or is near an end of life and just holding their hand and singing their favorite song. That's live music too, isn't it?
We had somebody in our finance department, a gentleman who was always very quiet and we didn't know him very well. And all of a sudden one day he said, I've been learning to play the harp and I would love to do it in front of people, but I'm so scared and I'm so nervous. And so he offered to come and play in our memory care space. And the residents adored it and it started building his confidence up. He did it in all different areas of the community. And now he will come in and perform for these massive gatherings. And so it was somebody on staff. We would have never thought to reach out to somebody in finance because, again, we're just not thinking outside the box there. But he was able to provide this, and then we were able to help him increase his talent and his confidence. And so you're right, looking outside of hired entertainers can be really beneficial, I think, for both parties.
Yeah, definitely. And I love the fact that that person's confidence was then built as a result of your activity.
Beautiful thing.
And they're not a resident, but as a result of your activity, they're also, you know, part of the program. And that's life, isn't it? That's what life's about.
Increased job satisfaction and good, just all of these other great things come out of it.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about how our head of finance, how they might feel about Brunion coming in and I might have to raise that with her in her next appraisal. Brilliant. Any more questions, Jana, from Bucks? Oh, we go. This one is from Sam. How effective is music in facilitating non-verbal communication, particularly for residents with advanced dementia or speech impairments?
Sam, that is brilliant because what I have found is that can be one of the best forms of communication. Especially if somebody has Alzheimer's, dementia, memory loss, music is going to be one of the last things that they lose. You may have people who are completely nonverbal that you haven't seen talk in months, but if you can find the right kind of music, all of a sudden you might see them blinking, smiling, clapping their hands, tapping their toes, and sometimes they might actually sing along. I've had cases where it just blows you away. Somebody hasn't talked for 2 months and you find the right song and all of a sudden they know all the lyrics.
Wow.
Yeah, what a gift. I think that's amazing.
I think that is the best place to stop. What an amazing way to end this conversation. I could talk to you, as you know, and I have, for hours and hours.
We could chat and chat.
That was just wonderful. So we are a little bit over time. I hope you'll all forgive us because that was such a fantastic, great insights from Colleen. So what's up next? As you know, as I've said, tomorrow we are in person at the Liner in Liverpool for our NAAP conference, all to do with music. We've got an incredible program. Really, really excited to see everybody. It's going to be wonderful. And then in the evening, we get our glitz and glamour on for the NAAP Awards. And huge congratulations to all of our finalists. We'll find out who the winners are tomorrow night. So looking forward to seeing as many of you as possible tomorrow. But for those of you who can't join us, please remember to stay in touch, to tell us what you've been up to during that week. And we look forward to hearing more about all of that in the coming weeks. So thank you all very, very much. Gianna backstage has just popped her email address in there. Please share your ideas with Gianna. She'd love to receive them from you. But for now, happy NAAP week. Thank you, Colleen.
Happy NAAP week. Thank you.
Bye for now.